Welcome back to another episode of The Power of Your Story, a space for people to share their story, learn from their story, and ultimately empower others through their story. Today's guest is someone that I was fortunate of connecting through the power of Facebook, and I believe it was a group that him and I were a part of, and I had reached out to him and was just fascinated by his life and approach to his life through this concept of play, how to incorporate more of, especially in our adult lives. I know for me, it's been more of a challenge than anything, but I wanted to have him on this show to talk about this concept. And him and I actually had another conversation on another podcast called Overcoming Odds, where we spoke about some of these things in detail. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, please go ahead and do so. But before we get into today's episode, I want to make a few quick announcements. First one being is this. At the bottom, what you'll be able to see is an invitation to an event that we are hosting through Overcoming Odds, where the speakers that are part of it are all of the guests that have been a part of this particular show, and that is Scott Mason, Casey Berman, and myself included. And what we will be discussing within this particular setting is the whole mindset behind gratitude. Is gratitude a feeling, a thought, or something completely different? Outside of that, we'll be discussing what it's like to develop resilience through gratitude and grieving with gratitude. So if you're interested, or if you happen to know of someone that is, please feel free to share with them all the information, which can be found at overcomingodds.today/events. The other thing that I want to make note of is if you are joining in right now, or if this has been your first time joining in this particular show, if you like what you heard, all I ask of you is if you consider leaving us a review on iTunes or LinkedIn. And outside of that, whatever other comments or questions you have throughout all of this, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'm sure that Zander and I will do our best in trying to answer them as best as we could. And with that said, let's get back to the show. Zander.
Oleg.
Long time no see.
Yeah, Brad. Great to be back here with you, man.
I feel like, I don't know how long it's been, but I felt like we've kept in touch, like in different ways, but haven't had the conversation. It's been a while.
Been a while.
Coronavirus, it put everything, for me, time became a little bit flat, where it kind of just went from day to day. There really was no incremental thing. It was just like the same exact thing having to deal with. So it's been an interesting experience to go through all of that. And speaking of concept of play, it definitely had an impact on play within my own life.
I think everybody's been really affected by this in more ways than we can even imagine. It's just, we're creatures of connection, and to have this stimulation just taken away from us, and this lockdown situation first of all, and then having that fear of even connecting with people, it's psychological as well as physical. It's intense.
And that's what I've realized, and that this is what my experience has taught me, is I know within this past couple months I've been able to get back into things as far as activities goes with some of my friends, but they're still not the same. Even the whole wearing of a mask. I was actually doing some research yesterday. A friend of mine had shared with me this concept, how facial impressions just play such a big role in identifying the person and trying to see what it is that they're communicating to you. And all of a sudden, if you can't see this, you don't know.
Right?
You don't know.
Are they smiling? Or they? Yeah, no, it's a huge thing. I feel sorry for the babies, to be honest. Like when I look at children, they're like, it's such an impactful time of their lives, and they're trying to, when they go out in public and they see everyone with closed face and closed masks, they're trying to learn this facial recognition thing to a whole other level.
Yeah.
And, I feel, I don't know what the psychological impact of that's going to be, and so I feel it, I feel it in so many different ways, because it's crazy. It's crazy times right now, bro.
It really is. But I think this topic it couldn't be more relevant as far as what we're experiencing as we just described, and also just this larger theme of play that you and I had a little bit of a conversation prior. But I figured that if we were to continue having that conversation, we'd be having this for the next 3 to 4 hours and never actually get to the recording part of it all.
Yeah.
But that's I think is the playful nature of being able to connect with people of similar synergies and energies in life. And I guess the thing that I was really curious to learn or to have a conversation about was not only the benefits of play, but more so something that you and I started to touch upon, and that is play is a critical component of your own life, your own career.
Yeah.
What is that line that I know we briefly touched on that you choose to draw between staying in play and then going the career route, which requires a mode of monetization, which changes that play? It changes the concept from having it be fully creative, fully engaged, to now I got to worry about what other people are thinking, which changes the shape and the form of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough balance that I'm working through right now, is trying to figure out how to make that work, because I believe in the message, but now trying to monetize that without compromising the message. It's I'm actually working. A lot of times people have associated play as the antithesis to work, and so what I'm trying to do is trying to understand that play is productivity, and we need to have more play in our workplace in order to have that creative flow going. So when I'm trying to monetize that mission, if you will, as we were talking about earlier, finding that line, finding that balance is very challenging, because then does it change that message? So, I'm still discovering how to do that in my own life, because now it's no longer I can just play and have a good time with it. Now I'm doing more research on it and spending my time really involved with it, to trying to find out how to make this something viable for companies to really understand that, so that I can go into a company and significantly show the progress that could happen with it, so that, yeah, there could be monetary compensation for that time and that research. But
what do you think is the biggest misunderstanding when it comes to the whole concept of play to begin with?
Well, we're shut down from a playful spirit. I truly believe that we come here to play. I do believe that when children come to this world, the best way for us to learn is through our play activities, and that's how children deal with trauma. Even they play it out so they can work through it. But when we grow up, it slowly gets taken away from us as we go through a school system, right? That it teaches us that play is supposed to be at a certain timeline, and in that time at recess you're supposed to play, but then you do work hard, you study and stuff like that, and then as we even age further, then it turns into sports are our only way of playing, which are competitive, and then we go into a workplace that teaches us that it's work time. You're not really supposed to play, and so that's a big misconception of what the power of play is. Play is a way to get your mind to de-stress. It's a way for you to see things new. It's a way for you to awaken that spirit inside of us that we all have, that makes the world interesting. It makes us more curious about things. It makes us really absorb information faster, because our brain isn't locked in. The more we have to concentrate and think, the brain is like a muscle, but you have it stretched all the time, and trying to learn, cram in new ideas, it can't relax and absorb new ideas. So, the big misconception is that play is the antithesis to work.
And I also think that something fascinating for me when I started to accept more play into my life, because I agree with you. I think having gone through different forms of schooling, and afterwards starting my own form of career. Now, there are many challenges to be faced along that way, and part of those challenges, at least my experience, there were very few opportunities to play, and it wasn't until I met other people along the journey that said, enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey more than striving for a specific destination, striving for a specific amount of money that's going to equal in the house, the golden retriever, and the cat, and the kids, all the quote unquote the American dream.
Yeah.
I think part of that American dream, I don't know if necessarily it includes that concept of play. I think it's more along the lines of work, work, work.
Yep. Yeah, you got to make ends meet. You got to, you got to be a part of the system, and then play is considered to be against that. It not taken seriously. It's not, it's just it's misunderstood what it can actually do for your whole mindset, much less your physical body and how we play. We're the sports that we're taught to play are a lot of times really competitive and frankly dangerous, and they're not like the childlike play that children come up with. Children
Mm-hmm.
don't play like that. If they play dangerously or rambunctiously, it's to continue with the funness of it. But we're usually working together, not in a way of trying to defeat somebody or end the play quickly. So
Now, do you think this is something I was thinking of as you were sharing this story? I wonder if, for example, if you were to able to find a way for everything to be met as far as your basic needs and whatever else, but it's not earned by you. Let's say someone pays for your dream. Someone pays for you to live a life. Do you think at that point the whole mission behind play would change? Would you be able to appreciate it if it's not earned?
that's a great question. If everything was already cleared up and I didn't have to like strive to do the monetary
Mm-hmm.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
would the mission still be on point, if you will? Like if that's what
Mm-hmm.
I think I strongly believe that we need a transformation. How we can do this is trying to figure out the way. The monetary is kind of like, I guess, a little bit of a driving factor because I'm trying to figure out how I can make ends meet to spread the message further and how I can work it out to make it happen. But the game plan comes from that point of view of like how can I make the steps to make it work in that directive. So if I had the monetary already taken care of, the compensation for that, I truly do not know how the mission would change. I don't know how I'd be able to. I mean, my drive would be. I don't know. It's challenging for me to figure that out because like
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I do have is I've been very fortunate in my jobs where I've had chunks of money to keep me afloat
Mm-hmm.
for a long time period, and I haven't had that necessity to really push myself. And a lot of times I feel that kind of slows me down even a little bit because I don't have
Mm-hmm.
that fire under my butt to really get things going. So if
Mm-hmm.
I had it all paid for and I was ready to go, I don't know if I'd just be so secluded in myself and go, you know what, forget the whole world, the mission and stuff like that. I'm just going to focus on myself and just be as much fun as I could have. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it
Mm-hmm.
would be such a drive for me to try and spread the mission to everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
or spread the meaning, the word for everybody else. But at the same time, I do see the importance of it because I do see that depression is a huge epidemic now.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety, so suicide rates are going up just because people don't have, they don't feel the joy in their life. They don't feel that they have a purpose. They don't feel that the world seems like it's spiraling right now. So I do believe the important things of finding out how we can self-regulate via creating more play in our lives and having more things to look forward to that bring about that state. I think it's a huge mission. How I go about
Mm-hmm.
doing it, it's now connecting all the dots, if you will, to make that happen.
Where do you think joy comes from?
I guess it would become from like an inner peace, an inner
Mm-hmm.
serenity, and an inner knowing that we're taken care of in a way. I think that the insecurity comes from that takes away joy. The feeling that you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know, like everything can be just taken away from you. Puts us in a state of like constant fear, and
Mm-hmm.
fear is the joy killer. So that's one thing that really shocks me about our society here in the United States is that fear is. I mean, I can't even say that like because I was talking with a guy who's living in a war country right now, and like there's the rioting going on and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for just being in a safe community and stuff like that. But at the same time, I feel a lot of, I don't feel a lot of security in my everyday living. I feel like anything can just be taken away from me at once. And then, so it's that need to feel that security, I think, builds upon that. And then the joy can come from that. And, it is a feeling of inner peace. And I'm still trying to get it every day.
Work in
I'll
progress.
be totally honest. I don't have it down. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this is my mission, to figure it out for myself more than anything else. And then, what I want to teach is something I need to learn the most, right? That we talked about before. So, I'm constantly being shown where I'm lacking in these qualities that I want to embody fully. But,
Well, it's something that I'm learning as well. I think as I've evolved and stepped into different areas of life, I started to realize that part of the reason why I may not feel that sense of security or do have certain fears, I think part of that is culture. And it's not to say that U.S. culture is bad or good. It just everything. It just is. It is what it is.
Yep.
But I think having the mindset and being surrounded by mindset where it's about attaining the next thing, it's about getting to the next goal. It's become more of a challenge and more of a difficulty for me to find the time to slow down, find the time to play with my dog. John here joined us. He says one of the things, dogs are great playmates. When you play with a dog, it is all fun, not competitive, and it will make you laugh and distress. I 100% agree with that.
Totally agree.
But finding that time to do that,
yeah,
to be intentional with that relationship that I have with the pet, and then allocating the time. I know that's for me, that's a work in progress. I did that yesterday, but that was probably the first intentional time in the past couple days because of the other activities that the day, quote unquote, requires.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other tasks.
Absolutely. And it was funny because that was funny that John put that in there, because we were, I was putting together this thing of how to wake up happy. I wanted to really find out for myself because, I've been noticing some days I wake up and I'm like, shit, I'm still here. You know what I mean? I got to get out of bed and face the music.
Day was over.
right. I'm like, and one of the things when I was looking it up, one of the things they talk about is playing with your pet. Like if you wake up in the morning and your pet's right there, you can play with your pet, and that'll automatically the joy, especially dogs. Dogs are unconditional, I love you, I love you, I love you. Cats can be, get away from me. But right, dogs are extraordinary for having that unconditional love for their companions, and that's a great way of getting you motivated for the day, getting you excited about the day. And you come home from work and your dog's just there shaking their, go, hey, you're home, you're the best. You're like, dogs are huge. The problem, I love dogs, but to have one as a companion is for me is challenging, because I would be like, it's another huge responsibility for me and all these different things. So I'm like, do I want another dog in my? But yeah, I've got my son. Does that count as a pet?
Maybe sometimes.
Right.
Some of the activities, but I wonder, and I don't know much about it, and I'm curious if you do. When it comes to the dogs, because I experienced the same exact thing. I'll be gone for 5 minutes, or I could be gone for a day or a week. And Caleb, my dog, always meets me with the same energy, the same enthusiasm. And I wonder, why does that happen? Does that happen because, well, I don't even know what to assume. Do you know why that happens? How are they able to maintain that when literally the duration could be 1 minute that I'm gone, and then it could be a week?
I think dogs are in the now. I think they're literally in the now. And so it doesn't, they're not worried about how they're going to do things. They don't have to strategize to make a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, or anything like that. They're just like, where do I get food and how do I get pet? You know what I mean? It's just like, that's their lives are simplified that way. And that's, humans are amazing because we can do all these things, and we can communicate with each other in such a way, and we can collaborate on things. But we do have a consciousness of a past and a future. So we spend a lot of time dwelling on things in the past that's happened to us, that we were victims of, that make us, scared about things. and then we dwell into the future thinking about what the possibilities are and how we have to
Mhm.
plan for it and make sure that we're stacking up our goals and our everyday thing to make that the fruition of that dream that we have, and
Mhm.
so we spend all this time trying to make that happen. And then especially nowadays, where we're not just born, then we get trained to do something, and we know our place in the village or our tribe and stuff like that. We know what we're going to do, and so it's not, we don't have to think about that. In today's system of like internet connection all over the world, and being totally bombarded by all these people who are successful, and how we want to emulate that and be that and do those things, and then of course trying to get the currency to live, because we have to buy our food at a grocery store, we have to pay our taxes, we have to pay for rent, all these different
Mhm.
things that compile upon each other to put us in a state of constant stress. So it's hard for us to find those moments and to take that time to jump into the now and say, look, I'm taken care of right now, I'm feeling good right now, how can I make this moment as joy as possible? I want to feel that joy. It's they're fleeting. There are moments where I'll sit in meditation. I'm like, okay, I'm doing good. I'll finish my gratitude journal in the morning, and I'm like, okay, I got all these things I'm grateful for. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh shit, I got an email now. You know, now I got to deal with this issue, and that puts me on a rabbit hole of like all these things I got to try and figure out in the day. And I'm like, where'd the time go? And I'm still haven't done the checklist of things I'm supposed to do, right? And
Mm.
so it's a constant bombardment of your senses and your mind occupying these things that we have to do all the time just to live.
I'm
So,
laughing because that's me.
all right. I mean,
Like one
right.
simple, see, for me, I think it's even maybe a little bit more intensified. I've noticed myself in the last however many years I think it's been, just the pure addiction to the phone
Mm,
and to the notification. So I've changed something within this past year, and that's literally went into my settings and I went app by app and I turned off every single notification, just so then
same.
at least it's a conscious decision. But
Yep.
then I'm still finding that a challenge. Like I thought that I had the willpower to not check it, but I think because the phone has literally become a part of me,
Mm,
there are times where I'll check the Gmail app for the sake of checking the Gmail app. And
wow.
I'll catch myself doing it like 1 minute, and then literally 30 seconds later, I'm checking it again. And then
Yeah.
I have to stop myself, like, why did I just do that?
Yeah. It's yeah. I mean, they know. I mean, they know the neuroscience of behind how come this is so addictive. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's the little pings, the little notifications that keep your mind. It stimulates you in a way. It gets you like a little bit of that with the flow state, because you get
And it's so hard to resist and
it's
break
the
that
most
behavior and not to
yeah.
do it.
It's so addictive. It is so addictive. I mean, every time that I have my notifications turned off on all my things too, because I was noticing even when the light comes on my phone, I'll look at it. I'll look at it
Yeah.
and see what happens. And what is that? You know what I mean? No matter what I'm doing, if I'm doing something really important and my phone thinks, I look over there and do it, and all of a sudden my thought, my flow state from what I was focused in on has now been sidetracked, and then to jump back into that state of that flow state, that concentration state, it takes a while to get back into it. And so it's again one of the main distractors we have in our modern lifestyle that keep us away from really feeling victorious in our day. You know what I mean? Because it's unless you're really disciplined, and that's what I'm trying to learn now, how to be more focused, more regimented in my schedule. I'm trying to learn different tricks of how to do it, but it goes against what I usually do. I've flown by the seat of my pants since like 3 weeks ago, when I started really buckling in with a calendar and really putting all my things in there. Like, I can look at my calendar now and see that I have my things scheduled in there, and I'm like, okay, that's good. But it goes against my very nature, just because I loved being able to go and just shoot the shit every day and go, okay, who am I going to meet with today? What's going to happen, and make that my focus. So,
What have you found out that works? What has worked well in this new routine of trying to develop that discipline?
um,
Because I'm looking for some tips and tricks for sure.
Right. Well, I've found that at nighttime I write my to-do list. I write down all my things that I wanted to do the night before and well before going to bed, so I'm not thinking about it as I go to sleep. And then I'm keeping my calendar updated. That's one thing that I've never done before. I've never had a calendar, and so I'm starting to do that. And I got introduced to a new program that actually is pretty cool, a new app. I don't know if I should say it loud right now, but it's called Trello. It's an app that you can make your to-do list and then move them around and stuff like that. So that was introduced to me actually yesterday. So now I'm implementing that, and that has a lot of good possibilities. So it's literally, and my biggest asset is probably my woman right now, who's like on me. She's like you got to get really more focused and really more centered on your mission if you want to make it happen. You can't just fly by the seat of your pants as I usually do.
Do you time block? Do you time block the times where you check the email and social media and stuff like that?
Yes.
And does that work, or do you still find yourself checking it outside of those times?
I've just started doing it, and so I've kind of been really trying to regiment myself. But even I don't know how well it's working, because I go through a block and I'll clear all my emails.
Yeah.
And then I find I'm doing it less, but I still jump in every once in a while and check something. Like if something reminds me of something I'm supposed to look for, I'll check into my emails to see if I can find something. And all of a sudden, then I'm looking through my new emails that came in. And it doesn't. I'll right, right,
man.
So, yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's a challenge, and the system that we have, it does just click into our natural let me see, our things, our reward system for ourselves.
Yeah.
That we have built in. Our biology is built into the systems that we have now with technology. So the reward system of an unexpected email, that builds excitement, and then you're reading something, you're getting information going into your brain, so your brain is getting trickled with those little the dopamines and all these different chemicals that come to your brain that are addictive. You get a little trickles of those when you do these things. You get a notification that gives you like a ping of, hey, I'm curious about something, and then so the biology of that is in our system already, and this stuff that we have now just trigger it in a whole other level, and so we are addicted to it. It's I guess the solution is to just go into the forest, just abandon,
go off the grid.
Go off the grid. It's the only way to stop it, right? Because it's
create your own
everywhere.
Create your own form of society.
That's one thing. I don't know if I don't know. I don't know. I get like so freaked out about our society and what we're going to be doing tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like how are we going to make it through all this stuff right now? Is technology the problem, or is it the solution? You know what I mean? Is that are we missing our humanity because of it, or is that the thing that's going to take us to another level of it? Because we have such interconnectedness now. People around the world can communicate with each other. So we're discovering that it's no longer an us against them thing. Everybody wants to live a life. So is that going to bring more unity, or are we getting more separated because we don't have to leave our room anymore? We can just Skype with people. We can just connect with people instantly all over the place and get locked into our own world. We don't even have to go outside. We don't have to go back into nature. Going to nature is now it takes planning. It takes you have to get into your car and drive out of your city or whatever to get into nature. Yeah. And nature's where we rejuvenate. It's where we get our energy and our spirit and cleanse from the stuff that we have in the cities and in our regular day lifestyle. But it takes effort. It's a whole other effort thing versus just sitting on a couch and turning on the TV or going on the internet playing a game or something like that gives us all these chemical reactions that give us a reward system, but really keep us locked in and more depressed and more feeling like our lives are meaningless. So,
well, I think the form of play has definitely evolved. Don't get me wrong. I still remember the days when I had to I literally had to bike from my house to my friend's house in order to be able to play football in the backyard or whatever it is that we did. Now, I think the concept of play has evolved so much where much of it could be done through Zoom. I
Yeah.
mean, I play games with my family
Ah,
and my friends through Zoom because
wow.
we're able to share the screen. We'll share whatever whatever the site is, and then each one of us are able to use our phones, type in the code, and then we jump into whatever game we're doing. So I think it has evolved, but at the same time, is it better or worse? Who knows? Maybe you're right. As you said, maybe this is the next step of humanity, and maybe just like anything else, it's evolved. I mean, look at people 50 or 60 or 100 years ago. They didn't have the capabilities that we have now. And so their version of play was different. Or even
Yeah.
back when people used to, I don't know, those games are like soldiers or like fight with swords outside,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
wooden swords. Like I used to do that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But now I can't name you one kid that does that.
No. Yeah.
So to what degree, you're right, has this become an asset, something that's helping us enhance these elements of play? And to what degree is it actually a step backwards?
Yeah. I would love to jump into like the mindset of people 50, 100 years ago and see
Yeah.
the stress level or the anxiety that they had. And if it's comparatively, I don't know how you can compare with it. I mean, were people worried more about everyday living or, worried about I don't know. I don't know. It's all comparative, you know?
Yeah. I also wonder at what degree did the whole concept of a future even exist or evolve?
Yeah.
Where you didn't. I'm thinking about times back in the day where it didn't appear that you had as much progress as we're experiencing right now. Without
Sure.
progress, how do you see the future?
Mm.
Things are moving in slow incremental stages that you don't even recognize. Like you don't see the car going from a Mazda to a Tesla.
Yeah.
You don't see those incremental jumps or leaps. How do you even recognize the future? I mean, or is it a lot more in the day to day, in the now? Because
Yeah.
there is no worry about, oh, I got to build this next car. It's just like we have a car, it works. Let's just make more of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, villages didn't evolve for such a long time. I mean, you did the same gig your father did or anything like that, or
Yeah.
and it just
You
was the
didn't really
same
have to
thing.
think about like how do I continue to innovate in the profession, in the career, because the thing, and I experienced this through some of my connections and friends, is that the things that they were able to do to earn money however many years ago are not the same things anymore. Those
Yeah.
things they don't work
Yep.
because the society has adjusted, and so the demand is no longer the same when it comes for the skill set that might have been required even 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, even a year ago, 2 years ago, I feel like public speakers are bands. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
bands used to be able to. I felt so bad for them because it was just like their gigs are all gone. You can't go to,
yeah.
all the places they used to go to where people were packed together to watch them. No, so you had to evolve, you had to switch around. But yeah, things are happening so rapidly, and jobs are just become obsolete overnight. Restaurant businesses. I mean,
Hmm.
you know,
It's a whole chain of things. What do you what do you think play looks like when it comes to productivity?
wow. That's a huge thing. Productivity and play go hand in hand as far as I'm concerned. Like the main thing about it is an interesting experiment with rats. They were talking about how they had rats that were together. They put two rats together, and the rats immediately started playing with each other, and then they would show about in 5 minutes. They showed 50 play invitations, if you will. And the rats were laughing and having a good time. They can tell how they laugh with this different squeak type of thing.
Hmm.
So then the experiment put a piece of cat fur inside the thing, and the rats stopped playing. They couldn't play anymore, right?
Huh.
And even after they removed the cat fur, the rats started playing a little bit, but they never got back up to doing 50 play intuitions. It got like into the 20s after like a extent like days, but it was the fear was set in, and they never could go further than that. In our workplace, we have fear built into the system. We have a hierarchy and you have people who are looking over you. So people stay in their lane. They're not encouraged to look outside of it and go different ways. So people, the innovation is locked in. Fear is the crippler for innovation and creativity, and play is the antidote to that. If you can find a way to encourage play in the work environment, your productivity will go up. This is calculated scientifically as far as the data goes. Like it goes up like 20%. Innovation comes in. When groups have been put together to have a play day where people come up with creative ideas and everything's open for interpretation. There's no limits. Innovation just skyrockets, and people collaborate together. Coworkers find working with each other better, and that's just a way to create a system of teamwork through play, which is something that I think would create a much better work environment. But you would see so much more productivity because people would want to come to work and want to hang out with their people they can play with and have a good time with, versus just clocking in and feeling like, oh, I've got to do this gig again and just stay here and just conform, because if I go outside of it, I'm liable to lose my job. I can get reprimanded. And so that's part of the mission, is to come in and try to explain to management how important it is to have your coworkers feel that they can be safe in the environment. And play is so deeply rooted in us, as we can play when we feel good. We feel good when we play. So it just resets us in such a quick way. And even if you have if you're stuck in a system really quick. I mean, I teach juggling as far as a great way of just resetting the brain, because it's a great flow instinct. It challenges your brain just enough to make it relax, but keep it focused. So, if you're stuck in a problem or something like that, and you just spend a moment just to play, your brain will reset and you'll come up with a creative solution. So, how we work that in is you can see the difference. It's calculable. I just see it's paramount.
What does the decision-making process look like when you juggle?
When the decision-making process, when you're actually juggling, or
Yeah.
what's,
Or is it more habitual? Is it more about just developing a rhythm and then you go with the flow? Or do you actually have to make the decision with each one of the tosses?
That's a great question, because right now I'm learning a new trick, right? And so that's breaking a pattern. So I actually have to really think about the next move, right? I have to train my body to do a certain pattern. Once you get into that pattern, when I'm just flowing with it, and I'm not trying to do a new move, I'm working on with all my old moves, then it's just more flowing with it. And I'll make a decision to toss them a little bit differently to do a pattern, but I've built in that neuron connection, right, between the hemispheres. That's what juggling does for you. It creates a neuron connection between the left and right hemispheres as you're going back and forth. So when you're creating a new pattern, you're kind of like forcing the neurons to go down a new electrical current, right? So they're used to going down this pattern, and you want it to go over here. So you have to eat and keep on building that bridge more and more to do that pattern. So it is a conscious thinking about this is how I'm going to throw it to do that, and it messes you up. I mean, juggling is one of the most frustrating things you can do, but you can quickly get over it. So I call it the tolerance for frustration builder, because you quickly get frustrated, but you can learn quickly how to get over something, and then you get that reward of accomplishing it, which builds in that self thing of gratitude. It's an amazing flow activity. So,
is that an activity that's more in the now, or do you have to kind of plan for the future more, as far as what is the next throw, what's the next, channel like you got to get through?
It's really both, because I mean you're trying to think of what the next thing you want to do, but you have to be in the now in order to catch them. You have to be it puts you in that state of it's a great state for your brain to be in, because you're significantly challenging enough to just stay really activated, and it's never bored. So it's that sweet spot, and that's where you want to be, as far as just really getting your brain to get into a nice meditative state. So I mean, I love what juggling does for us in general, and that's one of the things I try to teach people, all walks of life, any age. Just if you can learn, I believe if you can learn one thing that's going to enhance your brain activity and help things with it, juggling is my top thing I share with people, just because of that, the way it has all that great balance of left right hemisphere, plus it keeps you in the now, and it makes you focus on achieving goals, because you can continually learn new tricks. So
Mm.
it's you never get bored of it.
I know I've asked you this before on the other episode that we had, but help me refresh my memory. How did you even stumble upon juggling?
Ooh, I
Is that the story that has to do with the oranges or something like that?
well, the
No?
Rabatons. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, yeah. At one point in time, I got all my things down to a backpack and I started traveling, and that's when I was gifted a hack. Right, I
The
had
hack
one of
in
my
life,
yeah,
travel, escape.
right,
I like
yeah.
it.
My friend said, keep this in your pocket. It's gonna be the best gift anyone could ever give you. And he gave me a hack. So I put that in my pocket and I played everywhere I went. But when I was traveling with some friends who saw me playing hack, and they asked me if I knew how to juggle, and I said no. And so they said, okay, well, you better learn. So they handed me 3 rhombatons, and so I started practicing over those. It took me like 2 weeks to get a 3-ball rhythm okay. But then I spent. They were from Denmark, so I spent winter time in Denmark, going from house to house, going in these group things, and we'd stay at a house for a while, and everyone had juggling balls. So
Mm.
I just started practicing my tricks there and learning more and more about it. But I really didn't totally get into the power of juggling until, oh my gosh, probably like maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little bit less than that. Like I started like really practicing it a lot more, and everywhere I walked, I would juggle. So juggling while you're walking is also a really cool thing to do, because you have your legs going into a rhythm, the left or right foot, and then you're juggling at the same time. So that puts your brain in a whole different area of challenge, if you will. So
My brain is in a whole different area now, just trying to imagine that. Juggling and walking.
right, right. It's fun. I like do I do. I used to live on Kauai, and I'd walk along the Nepali coast, and I'd be juggling as I'm walking along the coast area. And if I walked to people and I dropped, they'd be like, "Oh no!" Acting like I've been juggling the whole time. But it was just a way of this, because you're on uneven terrain as well on that thing, and you have a cliff on one side.
Oh
So
boy.
it put a little bit of like freakiness into the whole thing. But it was I loved doing that, because it was an ultimate challenge for my brain.
Is that your form of meditation?
Uh, among others,
Mhm.
I mean, hack is my preferred physical activity, just kicking around the sack. For me, that's my whole body meditation, if you will. And one of my first gurus, official, like robe type of person, who was training me in the Hindu way, to be a Shivite. He saw me playing hack one time, and he was like, "That's your focus. That's your center." Because like I would sit for meditation for hours, and my mind would be like wandering everywhere and stuff. But once he saw me playing hack, he was like, "That's your way of really focusing yourself." So
Wow.
that became my thing. And juggling is my other form where I can do almost anywhere, and I love just doing that, just to reset myself.
Mhm.
But I also love sitting down for meditation.
Yeah, I'm the
So
same exact way. I think for me, it's more so about just sitting down and not doing anything, because I
mm,
find myself that when I do something, my mind's there, and it's not necessarily in the place that I want to be. Like
mm,
calmness, clarity. It's more so focused on how do you achieve it, how do you solve it, how do you do this thing. And I think there are certain activities that do help. I know that a couple of my friends, they do puzzles,
mm-hmm,
and those help them tremendously, and I do it sometimes, but for me it's I find myself a lot more frustrated with it, especially like 1,000-piece puzzle, or like 2,000 ones. It's
yeah,
just overwhelming. It's
eh,
overwhelming to see all of those pieces on the table, and then my quest is to find the one that's going to
right,
connect to the second one, to the third. But I do try to invest in activities like that, because I think they're important. I think they're
yeah,
important. I think they develop different parts of the brain, that I may not even exercise on a daily basis. And I think having that variety, if anything, at least the way that I imagine it, and then having conversations with you helps me realize it even more. It enhances my other activities and how I make decisions and how I perform in life and what it is that I choose to do in life.
Yeah.
Being able to see all those different avenues that I think like puzzles and things like that offer. I'm curious when it comes to the juggling, and I know that much of the work that you do when it comes to a lot of these organizations, is that the primary thing that you use to get the concept across? The act of juggling, or do you do other things?
Well, there's the premise is on juggling is one of the superior ways, or one of the best ways I've found to do that. I primarily focus on plays, and to reiterate that play is different from all different people. I mean, the New York Times actually described there's 4 kind of categories that they have for play.
Yeah.
One is whimsical, people who just like to play with the world. One is lighthearted, where people just don't take everything seriously. And there's an outward play where you want to connect with other people for you to play. And there's intellectual, where puzzles and games and even reading a book are your way of playing. So it's different for different people. And there's introverts, they have that different way. There's just extroverts, and you can also be have all the categories. It's not just you're limited to them, right? So you can have different ways of playing. But when I go and talk to a company, let's say, and I want to talk about play in general, what the benefits are of it, my goal is to say you can play in different ways, but these are some of the best ways I have found to do things rapidly and get your mind focused in a different way quickly. And it does evolve around this, which I call the ultimate play tool, right? Because this is something that you can, if you need to regenerate really quickly and want a full body exercise, if you can find a place to play hack, it's a small space. You can do it by yourself or with other people, and they're working together, cooperation. It's not a game where you're trying to beat somebody. You're working with people. So in a hack circle, you can go in a very small space and do it rapidly, get your whole body moving, and you're standing up and moving around and balancing yourself. And it's a great brain trainer as you're balancing and kicking something out of the air, right? So that's cool. Juggling is a way you can do it even at your desk. You can throw this around, juggle, which will reset your brain. You can just squeeze this thing if need be. That helps a lot. You can throw them at your coworker, in a fun way to really get things changed up. You can set up cans somewhere, knock them down, bowl them into a cup. This thing creates almost unlimited ways for you to explore your playful side. And then what I do is at the company is I teach them how to make them, and you can have your own logo on it. And then you have a takeaway. So not only do I share with you how to do these things, but afterwards you have this thing that you can either put on your desk, which reminds you, this will always be that lock-in for you to remember how to play,
right?
But you can also play with it. So it's not just something you keep on your desk. You can grab that thing and, if I'm sometimes at meetings or something like that, or I'll have 2 of them in my hand, and I'll do the little boa thing where I go like this underneath the desk or something. So I'm just spinning this, which activates my brain as well and keeps things flowing. It's just another little tool. But again, this one little simple thing that you can learn how to make has been my biggest game changer as far as, I can play with people anywhere I go with this. So
you might have already mentioned this throughout this conversation as well as the other one that we had, but what makes up play? Because it sounds like there's so many different ways to play, but at the core of it all, like, what is play to begin with?
Well, there's the definition of it is to engage in activity for no serious purpose. Like you're just doing it for the pure joy of it. So
like sports are not considered to be play?
That's a different form of play. That's the one that kind of I don't believe we fully activate our playful state in sports events. I feel like, because as long as you're trying that competitive nature is out there to overcome somebody and stuff like that, where part of us feels like we've, that playful spirit of the child
Yeah.
is not included in that. That's more of an adult thing of like dominance and control. And I've crushed,
Mm,
you know, I beat you up and now I feel great because I've done it. You know what I mean? But the child inside of us, the one that we recognize to have that empathy of another person, doesn't want the other person to feel bad or feel defeated. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Like when children play games, they balance out the game so that the play will last longer. They don't want it to end quickly. There's no time limit for it. So they'd rather adjust the play so they can continue. And that's the spirit of what I believe true play is based upon. So, you know, our sports and stuff like that, they're a great way of getting exercise, and you can get into a flow state where you're pushing yourself and you're really in that focus, and you get a lot of, again, the norepinephrine, the nice little dopamines, the other things that go through your brain that create those chemicals that you can get in that place where you're, on fire or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the game, there is somebody who loses, and
Hmm.
so that's the challenge for me as far as balancing out what I feel is true pure play and what is our versions of play where there is a sense of a cutoff from that empathy for the other team. You know,
So does true play have an objective then?
that's the only objective is to have that enjoyment, is to have that play. That's
Okay.
the definition is that there is no serious goals or thing other than to play, and so that's
Okay.
like the
So like most board games probably don't fall under that because they're I mean, most of them, at least the ones that I'm aware of, there is a competitive spirit.
yeah. Yeah, and that's the fine line between what the pure child play or the play that's still enjoyable, but
Hmm.
there is still a defeat or victory type of thing going on with it where somebody wins and somebody loses. So, I mean, play is such a huge definition and such a huge possibilities. I mean, I consider that all life plays. That's my thesis, if you will. I don't think
Uh-huh.
I think I see planets playing with each other. I see life playing, birds playing. And scientifically they're talking about how insects play. Ants play battles. And they as far as they can observe, every mammal plays. So there's I think it's inherent in life. I think life is play. So, you know, I think there's a whole bigger level to it than just what I can see as myself. But I got a whole spiritual side to it as well. Like, that's the reason why we come here. That's why what creation is for me. It's like
Mm.
we've actually, if we come from our infinite self, we create a physical body to experience physicalness and a universe that's in a playful spirit and playful mode. So I think I tap that into that's the highest way we can achieve our higher self. So
That's fascinating.
yeah.
Xander, how do people connect with you? What do you have? Do you have anything coming up? Any
I,
courses, any workshops, anything like that? Anywhere where
I
they can learn how to hack?
well, I've got. I mean, I do have on Teachable. Hackido.org is the actual website. I do have
Uh-huh.
a course on juggling, a free course which teaches you how to make juggling balls, and you learn the steps to juggling. So even if you are a good juggler, um, the course is really cool because it teaches you steps to show other people how to juggle without going through the frustration. Because there's doable steps for it. So that's one of the things I promote. I also have a course on the path of play, which goes more into depth about how you can bring more play into your life in general. And on that course, I teach people how to make these things on there. It's just a simple concept of learning how to sew these things, which is also great. My website is being updated now as I'm putting in more I'm adding more courses to it, a business course and how to activate your flow, what I call the play flow state,
Uh-huh.
which is activating your brain in the flow state, but incorporating play into that. So every time you start playing, you can get into a flow state quickly. So I'm just constantly doing research onto that and finding out how to bring that, ground that out more so that it becomes more tangible for people. So
That's awesome. Well, thank you for being a part of this and being a part of my life. I know that just having the ability to see you incorporate your own sense of play into life, it's been rewarding to see because here's someone else that's doing it. And yes, it's not an easy road to do all the other things, but at the same time, I also, this is just my opinion of it, I think life would be somewhat boring if there was an easy path and there was no challenge, there was no hardship. And the beauty of it is that I think we get to define the meaning to those hardships.
Nice. Yeah. Really work through it. That's the the life struggle, if you will, the life thing of of developing our challenges so we can continue to grow. That's huge. So,
well, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate this space and this time to be able to explore this further. And I love the in-depthness of the conversation. It helps solidify more of what I'm trying to do here. So in my own brain. So
I appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much, man. Aloha.